Hello and welcome to the Maxi Geek Show. This is Friday, February 11th. This is the fifth episode of the show. And, start of this week, maybe there wasn't going to be a lot of news, maybe it was going to be a quieter week. Turns out, no, Nintendo had other plans. So they threw up a Nintendo Direct yesterday morning, which, gave us a staggering amount of things to talk about. Before we get into that, though, we're going to get into some of the other news that sort of happened this week, just so we can sort of clear out some of the smaller pieces. I say smaller in quotes there because they're not really smaller bits of news, but we're going to get stuck into it anyway. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the fact that the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, which is just called Obi-Wan Kenobi, has been given its air date. And unfortunately, they didn't stick with like May 4th, like they did last year when the Bad Batch, they premiered the show on that date. This one will be doing it on May 25th. So this is a 10-episode series that has Ewan McGregor back as Obi-Wan Kenobi. In addition, Hayden Christensen is returning to play the role of Darth Vader. And Joel Edgerton is back as Uncle Owen. So if you remember, he played Owen Skywalker in episodes 2 and 3 of the prequel trilogy. So he's back in that. In addition, we've got Moses Ingram, Kumail Nanjiani, Indra Varma, and a few other actors and actresses joining the cast as well. And I said we got a new poster, which is very, very cool. I do like the fact the eye in Kenobi is the lightsaber. More interestingly, this, even though it's a Star Wars show, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have nothing to do with this one. So this is actually being directed. All 10 episodes are directed by Deborah Chow, who directed a number of episodes from the first season of The Mandalorian. And Ewan McGregor himself is actually producing it as well. So there is a lot of stuff happening for this one. It is interesting that we're getting this first. Many thought we would get Andor, which is the Rogue One prequel series first, but it turns out that's not the case. Who knows? Maybe this ties into those events, and maybe once the Rogue One prequel series is up and running, maybe there'll be a bit of crossover there. It is very interesting that we are getting it sooner than expected. Many people thought we wouldn't get it till later in the year. But again, too, the other thing to note is that May 25th release date. The Moon Knight series, the Marvel Studios Moon Knight, is starting up in March. And that's expected to go March, then all through April and the first week of May. And generally speaking, Disney like to have at least a week's break between the end of one major series and the start of another, just to make sure people sort of stick around, but give them time to decompress and talk about everything. So it is very interesting that they're doing it later in May, but time will tell to see if that's a very good thing or not. Also this week we got a first look, technically our second, but our first proper look at the Wolf Among Us 2, which is the episodic series from Telltale Games that this is the second one that they've done. The first one they did a number of years ago, and it is based on the DC Vertigo comic series Fables. So here you can see a version of the key art, and has Bigby up the back there, who's the big bad wolf, has Snow here in the front, and it has a new character over down here underneath, sort of a Bigby over there. The trailer is very cool. I'm not going to play it with the audio because I just want to show from one particular point. So the more interesting thing about this is it's not due out till next year. 2023 is its current release date, but it is expected to hit PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. And more interestingly, this is not done on some version of the traditional engine that Telltale Games were using for years. It's actually all built on Unreal. The character sitting there on the couch, that's Dorothy, which is why she has the Tin Man and the Scarecrow around her. Obviously, the trailer ends here with Bigby letting loose and unleashing the inner big bad wolf. So we did get our first teaser of this back in 2019 at the Game Awards, before the Telltale Games unfortunately sort of imploded after that. But once they sort of revealed they were coming back, they announced The Expanse at the Game Awards last year, and then they turned around and said, and also we're continuing to develop The Wolf Among Us 2. Many thought we wouldn't get this for quite a while, but it turns out they were wrong. We got it. We're getting more information pretty soon. Obviously, the game is still quite a ways away. Also, this week we got our first full trailer for Lightyear, which is the upcoming Pixar movie that chronicles the adventures of Buzz Lightyear. So, as most people would know, generally speaking, Hollywood will create a movie. That movie will create, toys and other sort of things these days: backpacks, shoes, shirts, skateboards, fidget spinners, all that sort of stuff. And then, if they're popular, they'll do, targeted things like cartoons and such. The way that the story for Lightyear worked is this is the movie that inspired the action figure that Andy was all gaga over in the very first Toy Story. Right, so this is the movie that sets up, the Buzz Lightyear action figure, the Buzz Lightyear from Star Command TV show, all that. Okay. So we also got a new poster for the movie, which is it's cool. I like sort of the look of everything, but I'm not a fan of that sort of style. But let me just pop on the trailer here. Visually, it is quite insane, because if you told me this was a DreamWorks movie, I'd understand it, because DreamWorks have done more realistic looking things before. That's not generally a Pixar style. They generally have a very, very sort of, there's like a look to everything that Pixar do, and they haven't put that in this one. So it is definitely worth a watch. I will pop the story in the Twitch chat here, so if you do want to see the trailer, you can have a look at it there. That is his robotic pet, which is designed to help out. It's very cool, these giant robots that Star Command have to fight. They do have, one of them has the 3 cannons that there it is there, that Zod has there. So yeah, it is a very cool looking trailer. As I said, it is in the chat if you do want to go over and give it a look. It is coming out in June, I believe it was June. I'm pretty sure it was June. I'm gonna have to double check that now. June 16, yeah. So that's a very, very cool thing. June 9, so the week before that is when we'll get the new Jurassic World movie, but we'll get to that in a moment. Now, last week, Bethesda and PlayStation put out an overview of Ghostwire Tokyo, which is the new game from Tango Gameworks. A few weeks before that, I actually got to see a lot more of the game, roughly 30 minutes from sort of the earlier portions of it. And I'm just sort of highlighting this here. I did get a chance to see it and learn about the game a while ago, in more detail than was shown in the PlayStation showcase. If I had to do, the whole, it's kind of like these games sort of thing. It's a first-person shooter essentially, but instead of guns or whatever, you're using finger guns, and you're using elements. So you're using wind power, fire power, things like that, and different elements can impact different visitors, which is what they're calling the baddies, in different ways. So if you do have, the wind element and you're not really doing much damage to a particular type of baddie, you may need to switch to the fire element. Interestingly, though, there is a bit of a like Eternal Darkness vibe going on. There's a lot of stuff, things will appear out of nowhere in certain sequences. You'll hear laughter and giggles from and noises from around the way, because it is a bit of a horror game. It's definitely nowhere near as full on as their more recent titles, the Evil Within and Evil Within 2. Those are definitely full on horror focused. But this one definitely does have a few horror elements. So so that is coming out on March 25th for both PlayStation 5 and PC. If you are an Xbox only player and you are waiting for it, the game will not release on any other console until May 25th, 2023. So you are going to be waiting, March 25th, 2023. So you are going to be waiting quite a while for that one. 12-month exclusivity. So the 12-month exclusivity for Deathloop is over in September of this year. The 12 months exclusivity for Final Fantasy VII Remake no tabs. It's not that type of vibe. It's in one of the sequences that we saw. So in the gameplay review that Bethesda showed off, Akito gets a bow and arrow, or a bow. In the extended thing that I got to see, as he was leaving the apartment where he found that, there was a massive barrier that was erected around the building, and while with that barrier in place, he couldn't escape, but the barrier was slowly shrinking. So it required Akito and KK to sort of explore the building and find the barrier stones that were in place and destroy them in order to escape. And don't need to lower the barrier and get out of there. In one thing, he opened up a door, and as he was walking down the entranceway of this apartment, this massive wall of like red and black, like if a Starry Night, the painting, it's kind of like that visual style, just like flowed down, the corridor, and then when he turned the corridor, the entire room had just rotated, 90 degrees. So what was on the floor was now on the walls, things like that. He went into, left the room, went upstairs to the next floor to take out another stone, walked into the apartment, and it was upside down, and then crouching and going through an air vent, came out to this room where there was this black goo everywhere. And then after leaving that room, he was outside, he's in this thing, and all of a sudden, like, the entire building vanished, and he was like a mile up above the planet, walking, towards this thing that he, on this very narrow pathway. It's just very Eternal Darkness in that sort of sense, that nothing that you see may stay the same way. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out in the long run, whether or not they can keep it, going. The other thing, obviously, is that the gates that you encounter throughout the world that you cleanse will clear the fog. So the fog is what's stopping you from exploring, Shibuya and Tokyo, as you will. So yeah, it is open world, but it's limited by the gates that you clear. So until you clear the gates, you can't progress any further. Something that dropped this morning was the new trailer for Jurassic World Dominion, which is the third movie in the Jurassic World saga. Now, they obviously did, they released a sort of a prequel. So that after the release of Jurassic World, whatever the last one was called, I can't think of its name off the top of my head. But after that, when they released a thing called the Battle of Big Creek, which was basically, a bunch of families just, in this sort of campground area, and then these dinosaurs came in and just wrecked it. I will have to take your word for that, Dylan. Um, they obviously did release last year sort of the opening few minutes of the movie, where we got to see, dinosaurs 65 million years ago before, they all sort of got wiped out, which was very cool. But then today we got a proper trailer for it. Again, I won't play the trailer because it is going to be copyrighted, but I'll pop the story in the chat. Obviously, the big thing with this is that Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum, and Laura Dern are all making, they're all back in the movie. And unlike when they tried convincing us that Jeff Goldblum was going to be in the previous movie, where he was in it for like 3 scenes that lasted barely 2 minutes, this one they're actually in it. So they're back in the adventure and going on through all the things. If you do want to play sort of the story that connects between the second movie, I really need to look that up. So the Jurassic World Evolution 2 game that just came out last year for Xbox and all that, Fallen Kingdom, that's the movie, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. So Jurassic World Evolution 2 that came out last year for all the consoles except Switch, that one picks up a few years after the events of Fallen Kingdom, and is sort of a prequel into the storyline for Dominion. So that is obviously going to be there for those people who want to see, everything going on there. Right, that's sort of all the non-Nintendo Direct news that we're going to talk about today, because I said there was a Nintendo Direct and they dropped a lot of information. So we're going to go through everything sort of in order that they came out with. And when I say everything, what I mean is we're going to look at everything big, not necessarily everything from the showcase, just sort of the really big stories. If we went through everything piece by piece, we'd be here until, the sun rises tomorrow, so to speak. But the first thing is, Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp did get a release date of April 8th, which is what many people expected because that's what the eShop was updated to when they delayed it. Which, that's Nintendo's MO. So that's sort of Nintendo's MO, is they'll delay things. They know the date that it's going to release on next, but they don't tell us because they don't want to date something and then, if something happens, they have to delay it again, just to avoid them looking particularly bad. Advance Wars 1+2 is looking, spectacular. There's not much more to it. We got a new trailer, which I'll play in just a moment. But it's, it's the campaigns from 1 and 2, plus map maker, war table mode, and multiplayer. So let's have a look at the trailer.
More intel on the Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp game. In the first campaign, Advance Wars, you'll advise a colorful cast of commanding officers and use their abilities in vibrant turn-based battles. Each commanding officer is now voiced, bringing even more charm to these characters.
You're gonna get hurt.
I see right through your plans.
Another full campaign awaits in Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising. More commanding officers and more diverse terrain can be leveraged for additional tactical opportunities, like blasting through pipelines to cross into enemy territory. In both campaigns, you can fast-forward gameplay and reset your turn.
Not going to make everyone watch the entire trailer because it does go for a bit, but it is interesting that they're adding some very, very welcome quality of life improvements, and I honestly wonder how much of that war groove sort of made possible. Something else that honestly surprised me greatly was that No Man's Sky is coming to Switch. And what's probably more surprising, it is not via the cloud. It is being ported natively to the platform. Now, No Man's Sky has been around for a number of years now. It was initially, sort of built as this massive exploratory game where you and your friends could do everything together. When it first launched, it didn't have any of that. It was a shell of what it, was promised. But Hello Games kept at it. They added new ship updates. They added, mechs recently. They added creatures that you can tame and ride. They added more combat in space, more trading opportunities. So they just kept building it out more and more and more. So yeah, it is very interesting because it is the entire game being built being made to run on Switch. What I find interesting is that it is going to support the crossplay. function. So, you know, if you have friends that already played on other platforms, you can join in there and just enjoy playing with them, which is obviously always a welcome treat. Not necessarily something that I think a lot of people will do, but at least, you know, you're not going to be stuck playing with just the people on Switch. Hey, but when you've got 100 million consoles out there, people are going to be tempted to bring their games to it now. I mean, just the other day, a Microsoft executive said, hey, we want to put Call of Duty on the Switch. So there you go. Right. Something that I honestly did not see coming. Advance Wars should be good. I do wonder how much they needed. I think it was just more polishing than anything, because the game looked pretty good back at E3 last year. So it is interesting to see that, you know, they did delay it another 4 months. And yeah, No Man's Sky, I've put in probably more hours than is safe on No Man's Sky. But I love it. I love just sort of spending an hour or two just wandering a planet, getting resources, building up my base, and just, you know, having fun. Not really doing anything, but still just enjoying this, you know, the simple loop of exploration and building. So, but in terms of games that honestly I didn't see coming, you know, in terms of reveals, Portal 1 and 2 coming to the Switch. If you had said, hey, what's your wildest game that you think may come to Switch, this was never going to be it. The Portal Companion Collection is due sometime later in 2022, so there's no date for it yet. Oh, good deal. No worries. The Portal Companion Collection is coming later in 2022 and does include Portal and Portal 2. Interestingly, this is just Portal. It's not like the Xbox Live Arcade version of Portal, which had a few extra levels. It sort of does... I'm a bit let down that the Portal Companion Collection doesn't include the Portal Bridge Constructor game that's already on Switch. That would have made it like a true Portal experience. But what is interesting is that it is both games, and Portal 2 does support local multiplayer, so local co-op, and online. So you know, Atlas and Peabody are the two robots that you can play as, and you can, you know, play through an entire original campaign with those two characters. What is somewhat interesting is that the game is being done, the port is being handled by NVIDIA themselves as part of their Lightspeed Studios group. Now, Lightspeed Studios are the same folks that ported Mario Galaxy 1, Twilight Princess, Punch-Out, and a few other Wii titles to the NVIDIA Shield for China. If you can recall back, there was a bunch of Wii games that were added to NVIDIA's Shield, especially in China, as a way of sort of promoting that system. And NVIDIA themselves were the ones that ported those across. And they're actually sort of enhanced. So they're still very much Wii builds, but, you know, they had a few extra features here and there. And that's the studio that's bringing Portal across here to Switch. They also have done work bringing other things to Android. So the studio isn't just, you know, porting Nintendo games elsewhere. But interestingly too, it is obviously, you know, the Source engine running on Switch. It's the second time that we've seen the Source engine on the Switch, because the first game obviously was Apex Legends, which released last year. And that's obviously running on a very customized version of Source, because that's what Respawn Entertainment use. So that's what they used for Titanfall 2, and then obviously Apex. They'd used Unreal for Jedi Fallen Order and Medal of Honor though. So, but yeah, it is coming to Switch later this year. And as somebody did point out to me, you know, this game is, you know, a number of years old. But I don't know, I mean, I'm just looking at this screen and it just looks too good for Switch. Obviously, I can see where they've, you know, lowered the count on some visual assets, but it's still, you know, if you showed me this screenshot and said, hey, you know, what device is this running on? Switch would not be what I'd say this is from. So yeah. Interestingly, when it does release in the US market, it is priced at $20, $19.99. So it should release here at $30, because we've had a number of titles release at that price point in the US at $20, and when we get them here in Australia, they are $30. So obviously very welcome to get both Portal 1 and Portal 2 for that sort of price. And it has been a number of years since I've played through them, so I am very keen on revisiting them again. Whenever something new hits a console or a new platform, you're like, oh, I haven't played that, or I'll give it a go. That's sort of what I'm thinking. It will be my desire to play these games again on the Switch. In a move that surprised pretty much everybody, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on Switch is getting new DLC. We are getting the Booster Course Pack, which is included inside of the expansion pack for Nintendo Switch Online. And that will add 48 courses in 6 releases over the next 2 years, essentially. So the first pack is due on March 18th. And then they're saying by the end of 2023 we'll have them all. So it's basically every 4 months. So we should see another pack drop in July and then another in November if they keep up to a pretty consistent cadence of releases. The big thing, obviously, with this is you're going to be pulling from all the previous games in the series. So that's Super Mario Kart 64, Mario Kart Superstar Circuit, which is the Game Boy Advance version that many people tend to forget exists, Mario Kart DS, Mario Kart Double Dash, Mario Kart Wii, Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS, and then Mario Kart Tour from the mobile. That's the only one that really concerns me is the mobile tracks because they are very short. I've done 3 laps, on the 150cc speed, and it's barely taken me sometimes a minute because the tracks are very narrow, very, very short in their overall size. So hopefully they manage to increase the size and scale of these tracks. As the first pack is dropping on March 18th. If you don't own it, it is $37 to buy. Sorry, if you don't have the expansion pack, it'll be $37 to buy the booster pack on its own. Or if you're already a member of the expansion pack for the Nintendo 64 add-ons, that means you can get this as part of that, same as the Animal Crossing DLC. The first 2 cups that are coming is called the Golden Dash Cup and the Lucky Cat Cup. And as you can see here on the screen, if you're watching the show back, the Golden Dash Cup will add Paris Promenade from Mario Kart Tour, which is the mobile game, Toad Circuit from the 3DS, Choco Mountain from the Nintendo 64, and Coconut Mall from the Wii, which I know some people got very, very excited when they saw Coconut Mall in the trailer. The second cup, which is coming again on March 18th, is the Lucky Cat Cup, and that adds Tokyo Blur from Tour, Shroom Ridge from the 3DS, Sky Garden from Mario Kart Superstar Circuit from the Game Boy Advance, and Ninja Hideaway again from Mario Kart Tour. Some of the we've got some screenshots. It does look very cool. I'll be honest, I'm showing here, Choco Mountain. I'm not a fan of this one. I think it needs a bit more, definition on things. But some people will be very happy with that. Like this is Sky Garden from the Game Boy Advance, and obviously they've done a lot to it, and it looks incredible. And that's Toad Circuit there. Something of note though is that you won't be able to buy these packs individually. So if you only want, pack or wave 3 because it'll have, Wario Stadium, for example, you can't do that. You either buy the pack and get everything, or you don't get the pack and you get nothing. So that is obviously something you need to be aware of for this one. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting them to drop, any form of new Mario Kart content. I honestly thought at this point they don't care. They're just going to keep it going until they, create a new game, or new platform. But there are 43 million copies of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And then if you include the Wii U original release of Mario Kart 8, that brings us over 50 million. So it is definitely a big seller for them. And considering they haven't added any content to it for, 3 years now, because there was a patch that dropped in Labo support, it's been very interesting to see, them sort of just how well it's selling, and they're not really doing much to sort of support it. Having a drink there. So it is interesting that they're doing it that way. I'm all for more content. I love Mario Kart, and again, if they keep up that release cadence of every 4 months, That's March, July, and November this year, and then March, July, November next year. And because they said the Wave 6 will come out by the end of 2023, so that sort of brings it up in line with that, which is what I honestly expect them to do. And it just means every few months I get a reason to go back into Mario Kart. Something else that was very surprising is that Wii Sports is getting a spiritual successor in Nintendo Switch Sports. I'll be honest, I could have just called it Switch Sports. I don't think it needed the Nintendo in the name, but that's just, you know, me being pedantic there. Interestingly, it has a very, very realistic art style. Let me bring up some screens here. The Miis, obviously, you know, they're not the same. They're getting a bit of an overhaul. I think somebody said there's a name for them. I haven't seen anything from the press release from Nintendo on that. But if you're looking at the background, there's a lot of detail going on. It's not just a generic sort of, you know, court that they're playing on or field that they're playing on. It's, you know, there's people sitting in stands watching and all that. People up here on the balconies. You know, there was in one of the things there was a cafe and all that sort of stuff. So, and I've just noticed this screenshot it's one of those trick bowling things because there's giant holes in there. But yeah, so the 6 sports that are included in Nintendo Switch Sports at release are tennis, bowling, chambara, soccer, badminton, and volleyball. The first 3 are making return appearances from the Wii Sports series. Obviously, tennis and bowling were from the original, and chambara was from Wii Sports Resort. And I'll be honest, that is probably the most pathetic sport they could have picked from Wii Sports Resort. They had disc golf in that, they had table tennis, they had jet ski racing, they had bike riding, they had, you know, what's its name? Pilot Wings. They had like a Pilot Wing style game in there. So there was a lot of options that they could have taken from Wii Sports Resort. And the sword fighting game, honestly, was one of the most annoying ones in that one. And the fact they've picked it for this one is a little weird. Soccer, badminton, and volleyball are very different because they're all new. This is the first time these have appeared in this particular series. What is interesting is that it is motion control only. So if you are expecting to play these with a Pro Controller, there's no support for that. There's no handheld support. So you can't play this, say, on a train. If you have a Switch Lite, you need to have a Joy-Con. It's very much a Just Dance scenario that you need a Joy-Con controller in order to play this game. What I will do is we'll put on the trailer here. Let me just turn it down a little bit.
It's a new iteration of the Wii Sports series.
Let me turn it. Mute it, actually. Yeah, so we are getting 2 updates so far that we know about. The first update will add some additional support for the soccer mini game. So the retail release, which is $69.95 here in Australia, will come with the leg strap from Ring Fit Adventure. So if you already own Ring Fit Adventure, you don't need to go retail for this one. And it allows you to have fun kicking a soccer ball. You strap the thing to your leg, throw in a Joy-Con, and you do the kicking motion. The first update will actually add that functionality into the game itself. So you'll be able to run around, in the game and actually then kick to actually, kick the soccer ball instead of just simulating it like you see on screen with gestures from the Joy-Cons. The second update, which is due sometime later in the year, in the autumn months, in the spring months for us, will add golf as a new mini game, a new game, I should say. That is probably the thing that's most interesting because with the addition of golf, it does leave them open to bringing more content in. Like, are we now going to see disc golf make an appearance? Are we going to see boxing or baseball or jet ski racing? I think we sort of passed it in the trailer already. There was... Oh, no, here it is. Let me just pause it on this one. So you can see here, we've got various stadiums where all these events take place. And you can see here the number of, controllers required for a sport. So soccer requires both Joy-Con, left and right. Volleyball, badminton, bowling, and tennis only require one. So it's very, very interesting they're doing it that way. what I when I saw this map, my first thought was, okay, that's great, but we're going to get more sports. And then when they said golf, that confirmed more's coming. But we've got a lot of waterfront property here. There's that building in the bottom right corner, which I don't think you can see the mouse there. Sort of just above the present and the gear icon. That could be something. And the one here on the right, just next to bowling, that has more capacity for maybe a boat to take you out to a water-based course. So I would love to see them do more sports for this one, even if it happens to be through a sports pass or like a gym membership style system. That we get more things added to it. Again, Chambara is really, honestly, it's just a bad. It's not really a sport. But as you can see, they're adding in this thing called like survival bowling, where you're actually playing against a whole bunch of other people all at once, and you've got to get through, and if after each frame, if you're within the lowest number of players, you get eliminated. So it's kind of like Tetris 99 in that regard. What is interesting though is that they will be doing a network test for the game, and that's happening next weekend. So that'll be February 19 and February 20 for us here in Australia. Now, Nintendo Australia did confirm, the times. Each session runs for about 45 minutes. It's not a full, session of things. Let me just grab the exact dates and times. I should have had them up earlier, but I was being lazy. So there are 5 sessions running. The first 3 are on Saturday, February 19, 2 o'clock to 2:45. These are all Australian Eastern Daylight Time, so Melbourne or Sydney. Then 10 p.m. to 10:45 p.m. at night. Then Sunday, February 20, at 6 a.m. to 6:45 a.m. And then again 2 to 2:45 and 10 to 10:45 in the evening. What is interesting is that access will be provided randomly. So everyone who wants to join this playtest will need to register. Registrations will be opening up next week. I believe it was next week. On the 16th. So February 16th, so next Wednesday, is when registrations will open. Players who are chosen will be notified, and then they'll be given access, to download the special build to play for it. Outside of those 5 sessions, you won't be able to play the game. Right? If you're looking to maybe just make use of bowling, in that weekend period, you can only do it within those 5 sessions. So it is very weird that it's so minor in terms of the amount of time they're doing these things. It's not unnatural. This is what From Software did last year with Elden Ring. They did their network test, but their sessions ran for a couple of hours each. So it is interesting they're doing some very, very short ones. The 3 sports that will be playable are bowling, tennis, and Chambara. So if you want to play some tennis or bowling, you can do that. The other thing to note is that if you do want to play with friends, you better hope that luck's on your side, because you are not able to play with your friends in a party. You're not even able to invite them to say, hey, come play, me in a game of tennis. It's all random. So you could spend every minute inside this playtest playing bowling and play against everyone else in the world except your friend who lives next door. Or you could be, partnered up with them first match on the first session and then never see them again. So yeah, if you're looking to sort of play with friends, just be aware that it is random. And because of that randomness, it does mean we will be sort of left. You won't be able to plan around it. You just have to, cross your fingers and hope for the best. We're getting a new Mario Strikers. If that doesn't make you happy, then I honestly worry for your sanity, because Mario Strikers, it's, as they said in this particular trailer, it is soccer-like. So it's not exactly soccer, but it looks and plays a bit like soccer. Mario Strikers started on the GameCube, and there was a Wii iteration, and Next Level Games were the ones creating it. What is very interesting is on the VookaCast, which is Australia's Nintendo-focused podcast. I'm on that every fortnight with the guys, and we did some predictions early in the year. My first prediction was that Next Level Games were going to be making a new sports game, and I did say Strikers would be the likely candidate, and it turns out I was right. What is very interesting with this is that in the US, it is called Mario Strikers Battle League. Here in Australia and in Europe, its official title is Mario Strikers Battle League Football. All right, so we've got that football tagged on the end there. Thankfully, everything's spelt correctly, unlike when we got Paper Mario and they spelled it COLOR for Color Splash, because they used the American spelling for global release, which didn't make any sense. One of the big things with this is that as you play through, you'll unlock different gear and different, accessories to wear, and that will change up your particular look and feel. So it's not just a matter of you having, you leveling up Mario's ability to run fast. If you start wearing heavy armor, which may make you more or less prone to being tackled, it will slow you down because you've got more weight on you. But on the other side, if you're wearing less armor, you'll be faster, but you could easily get knocked into the electric fence, as we saw happen to Luigi multiple times in the reveal trailer. What is very interesting, though, is that there is going to be online clubs. So if you and your friends have, all the game and you want to just say, hey, we're the best at this, you can create your own club with up to 20 players available to, 20 slots for that club. And then you can specify what type of club it is. Are you looking to be, you're going to play this as if you're a professional player. Every week you're going to be training it and or, you're just playing it just to have fun with your friends. But then your club, you can challenge other members from other clubs and sort of, have a bit of a ranked play that way. It does support 8-player local multiplayer, which means if we ever get a PAX Australia happening in person again, this is likely going to be on the screen all the time alongside Just Dance and Smash Brothers, because of the sheer number of players that are able to be in it. I'm very, very happy that this is coming. I do have the trailer up on the show, but I won't actually play it. I'll just put the story link in the chat here. The trailer does, it does require watching in full screen, which obviously we're not doing when we do these things on the stream here. But yeah, it does look very cool. I am a little worried that it's going to be very shallow in its depth, in the amount of content that it's going to offer. It isn't coming out until June, so there is obviously quite a while to go. We haven't seen a lot of it yet. And it does look like, one of the big things will be that the stadiums can be mixed and matched. So you can have a Donkey Kong stadium one side, Donkey Kong theme one side, and a Mario theme the other, or Mario and Bowser, How that plays out to, can I pick that? Can I put Bowser's course down on both sides? Or is it because Bowser's team or Bowser's captain of one team? We don't know yet, but I suspect it's going to be likely tied to the team itself. So if you say we're the team from the Mushroom Kingdom, this is the Mushroom Kingdom home ground, so to speak. I do hope there is some flexibility in that, and obviously, we've had story modes or campaign modes in many of the Mario sports titles lately, so seeing that is likely to happen again. Obviously, this is the first game from Next Level since they released Luigi's Mansion 3 back in 2019, and we did get some DLC for that as well in early 2020, but they've been pretty quiet since then. And obviously at the start of 2021, so about 12 months ago now, they were actually bought out by Nintendo, which is a very, very rare thing for Nintendo to do. They tend not to buy out developers all that often, unlike Microsoft and PlayStation, who seem to buy everyone lately. Star Wars is coming back to Switch. I say that knowing full well how many games are on Switch already for that series. But again, Aspire Media, the folks that brought over Knights of the Old Republic just last year, the Jedi Knight series, Jedi Knight. I've forgotten the name of it now. Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, and Jedi Academy, as well as Republic Commando and Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, have announced that they're working with Chrome, the Brisbane-based developer who originally created Star Wars The Force Unleashed for the Wii, to bring the Wii version across to Switch. Obviously, the the Wii version was made here in Australia by Chrome. The Xbox, PlayStation, and PC builds of The Force Unleashed were made by LucasArts Direct back in California. The big deal between the two is obviously that the other platforms had a very, very special engine that allowed the physics to behave as realistically as you could. So if you wanted to pick up Stormtrooper and use him to bash everything in the environment around, things would react appropriately. But more than that, the Stormtrooper would, if you collected his legs on a crate, his legs would fly up and then come back down. They made a big to-do about this technology. We were going to see it in an Indiana Jones game at one point, but that game never came to fruition. What is interesting is that, again, this is the Wii version of this title. So it's not the PlayStation 3 or the Xbox 360 game, it's the Wii version. The Wii version obviously was made to make use of the Wii back in the day. So it made use of the motion controls, and it obviously had a very different look. Same visual design look for the characters and everything. Same storyline, but the actual game itself was very different. But that's the version that we're getting. And because it is the Wii version, we're also getting the exclusive multiplayer mode where you can duel. It's basically Street Fighter, but for Jedi. Or for Star Wars, I should say. So you can be Darth Vader fighting against Darth Maul. You could be Obi-Wan Kenobi fighting Darth Vader, recreating some fights and all that sort of stuff. So it is very interesting that they're bringing this particular version across. Obviously, there was a second title, Star Wars: The Force Unleashed 2. And then Chrome, because they did so well with the dual mode, they did a Clone Wars title as well. And then they did another Clone Wars spin-off that was very focused on just lightsaber combat. How this runs, though, is anyone's guess. Some of the Star Wars games haven't had the best track record at launch. They've had some pacing, some performance issues. They have been patched and fixed up, so they're not just putting them out there and leaving them to be. But it's one of those ones that you shouldn't get it day one at this point, because the track record for Aspire and Star Wars games on Switch isn't with them. Interestingly, though, I did mention that this game was developed by Chrome up in Brisbane, and they are the ones doing the work and bringing it across. So they developed the game originally on Wii, and they're the ones doing the work to port this across to the Switch for Aspire. There's a whole combination of things going on there. So Chrome is an independent developer. Aspire reports as part of the Saber Interactive Group, which is a part of the Embracer Group, which owns like so many companies now. And obviously Lucasfilm Games, own the Star Wars rights. So a lot of studios working together to bring this one across to Switch owners. Interestingly, we've had a few reveals. Like we had Republic Commando in the Direct saying it was coming to Switch. Same with Episode 1 Racer. They all got confirmed as going to PlayStation pretty much an hour after the Direct. This one at this point is still only for Switch. So it could be the first exclusively Switch port that Aspire is doing for Star Wars. But yeah, so the motion controls, we'll see how they pan out. They were a little questionable at times on the Wii, but hopefully we'll see some good things for them coming through in the future. Speaking of Disney, because Disney own Lucasfilm, we're getting a new racing game from Gameloft. Now, Disney Speedstorm is interesting. It is made by the same team behind Asphalt. So Gameloft Barcelona are the studio developing this particular title. They're the ones that do the Asphalt series. They created the Switch version of Asphalt 9 was very different because it was custom made for the Switch as opposed to the other builds, the other consoles and platforms, where it was just the same one for all. So there was no cross-play progression on that one, whereas this one appears to be being built for all at once. What is interesting, though, for me, so at the moment we've got Jack Sparrow, Mulan, Sully, Mickey, Donald, and there was another character confirmed, Beast. So we've got a few confirmed, but if I can find the screenshot, I don't think they have actually screenshot. It's in the trailer. There is So all the characters will have a course. So this is the Pirates of the Caribbean course. This is still the Pirates of the Caribbean course. This is the Mulan course, apparently. I'm going to say that's Pirates again. That appears to be Hercules. I don't know, it's very Greek with its design. Yeah, that's definitely, Greek architecture. So I'm going to say Hercules. That's the Jungle Book, that one there. The Monsters Inc. track that we see in the trailer. So I'll put the trailer on here.
Peggy 7.
Yes, Peggy 7. Thank you. The Monsters Inc. track looks very, very, very similar to the track designed for Disney Infinity 3. So when I saw it, I was like, right away, I was like, oh, hang on. I literally played that last year for the Sony Foundation streaming series that we did. So it looked very, very, very similar. Oh, geez, that's the horrible trailer. Let me bring up the other one. We actually do have a proper one thanks to the Nintendo Direct. Where are we? There we are. So here we go. Here we'll put the proper trailer on. So you can see, so that opening shot there, that was the Monsters Inc. track. And that's the Monsters Inc. track again. And it just reminded me so much of that Disney Infinity Circuit. Obviously, it's probably going to be a bit longer. Hopefully, it's going to be a bit longer because, unfortunately, the Asphalt series, they tend to have very short tracks. So yeah, hopefully this is a longer collection of racetracks to be on. There was one shot towards the end here. Yeah, so that there, just to me, I'm looking at that, I'm like, that's the Disney Infinity track. I'm there with you, Tabs. I have all the Star Wars games on the Wii. I have all of them on the GameCube as well, and the 64, and most other platforms. But yeah, no, I'm with you as well. Force Unleashed, though, surprised me. Like, I honestly didn't expect to get that one, especially from the Wii. I honestly thought we'd get Shadows of the Empire before we got that. I thought they might stick with that sort of generation of platforms. So I am surprised we got it, but at the same time, I'm happy we're getting it. I just hope that, if they're going to start doing these pretty consistently, that they do Rogue Squadron at some point. Back with Disney Speedstorm, though, what's surprising, apart from the fact they looks like they've stolen one track layout from another Disney game, is that it's free to play. So it will be, free to get. You won't have to pay a single cent for it if you don't want to. But there will be seasons. So much like Fortnite, Call of Duty Mobile, Call of Duty Warzone, all those battle royales. There's going to be seasons running for this game. Even Chocobo GP is going to have seasons, and that's just weird because that's a full price release. Well, it's a $80 release. But yeah, so this particular game, yes, if they do Rogue Squadron, Tabs, I'm there day one. I don't care if it's 64 or the two GameCube games. If they manage just to bring that Wii version, that Wii build across it, that Factor 5 or the former Factor 5 did, I'd be happy too. But yeah, the fact that Disney Speedstorm is free to play is a little worrying, because I don't want to be racing for 5 minutes and then get told, I don't have energy to do another cup or another track. So yeah, I am concerned about that aspect of the game, because that's generally how all these free-to-play racing games work, is that they will let you race, but you use fuel each time you go out there, and then if you don't have the fuel, you can't do another race. I hope that's not the case in this instance. I hope they do something to fix that. But I'll be honest, I don't think they will. I think they'll leave it exactly how it is, because that's literally how they all work. And this being made by Gameloft, who specialize in mobile development, I don't think it's going to be anything other than that. Something, though, that I didn't expect to see coming and was quite surprised is Kirby. Now, obviously, we've known Kirby was coming. We got a release date a few weeks ago for it. But Kirby's a real glutton in this new game, because there's a new mode that he has access to called Mouthful Mode, where he can inhale real world objects like the car here in the background and make use of those abilities. So specific items that they showed off were the car, a cone, a traffic cone, I should say, a scissor lift, vending machine, a giant donut, and sort of an aerial glider. And then once Kirby has inhaled them, he can make use of their specific, not specific traits, but make use of sort of their functionality. So the car he can drive, you can see there, and here's some screens. The cone. I mean, I get the joke here, but those roadside cones aren't that strong, so they would be able to crack a steel pipe. But yeah, so it's interesting that that they're doing this. Honestly, just being a 3D open world sort of Kirby, very much like Mario Odyssey, would have been enough for most people, but they've gone out of their way to add even more to it, which is honestly very surprising, but also quite welcome. We knew that there was a Waddle Dee shop as part of Waddle Dee Town. So one of the things is, as you save the Waddle Dee that have been collected by the Beast Squad, they will return to Waddle Dee Town, and as you save more and more of them, you'll start unlocking buildings like the cafe and shops. One of the things that we knew is that there was going to be a weapon shop, but we didn't know how it was going to work until this trailer, and they confirmed that as you adventure through, you'll be able to unlock new schematics or blueprints, if you will, for these copy abilities and upgrade them. So the cutter here ends up, instead of just being one, has 3 going on. So this particular screenshot here, you can see the 3 of them being thrown off all at once. It is interesting. I don't know how that's a boss fight screen. I don't know how it's going to go in the long run for everything. We did see some attacks can be powered up even further. So there's 2 levels of power up to it. How that shapes out for the full game, we'll have to wait and see. But I do think it's going to be quite an interesting game, and I honestly can't wait to play more of it myself. I kind of do wish though they didn't do the mouthful mode in this one. They just left it alone, but I can see why they wanted to mix things up a bit. The other thing too is we don't know if there's going to be any sort of multiplayer mode. A lot of Kirby games over the years have had multiplayer modes. So we do know that there is co-op play available in Forgotten Land. So you can have a friend join with you. But we've had boss rush modes in some recent Kirby games, and there was that free-to-play game on Switch that was basically a boss rush mode on its own. So whether or not something like that appears in Forgotten Lands, we don't know yet. Given that we are like 6 weeks away from release, I honestly would have expected that we'd see some of it if it was happening, but who knows? They might surprise us and leave it to the very end. Speaking of surprises, we are getting a new Fire Emblem game. But what the surprise is that it's not a mainline entry; it's an entry in the Warriors series. So Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes is the second entry in the Warriors series for Fire Emblem. The Warriors obviously being the brand that Team Amiga or Amigo Force do for Koei Tecmo. In a couple of days, we're getting Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires on Switch. So this is obviously a Muso type of game where it's you versus 1,000 enemies, and you just, button mash your way through and lay waste to all the enemies on screen while trying to save people from being overrun and all that sort of stuff. What is interesting about this one, so the first Fire Emblem Warriors, which was announced for Switch during the original reveal event back in January of 2017, that was, 2 new characters, worlds sort of cracking and characters spilling in from all the different dimensions of Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes is actually a continuation of the Fire Emblem 3 Houses story. So Edelgard, Claude, and Dimitri, the 3 sort of leads for the various factions from 3 Houses, are back again for this one. It is interesting that they're doing it that way. Obviously, it does make sense because, we already have, this country that has, epic war scale battles. But I'll be honest, if we were getting a new Fire Emblem this year, I would have thought it would have been a mainline entry. But there's still time for that. This one's due out pretty early in the year. I think it's due out in July. 24th of June, my apologies. But yeah, It's a Fire Emblem game though. Sorry, it's a Warriors based title. So this will be the fourth one on Switch. We got the Port of Hyrule. The fourth Nintendo themed one on Switch. We got the Port of Hyrule Warriors originally that was from Wii U and 3DS. That's on Switch. And then also we got Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity recently. And again, obviously we got the first Fire Emblem Warriors game back at the launch of the Switch as well. This is obviously not the last Switch. There is the Persona 5 Warriors title that came out a couple of years ago. We've had a few Dynasty Warriors releases as well. So there's definitely been a lot of them on Switch. Technically, they've always sort of suffered a little bit, especially the ones that are on all the platforms, because Switch is obviously the most underpowered of the consoles, and they tend to make for like PlayStation first and then worry about porting it across. This obviously is a little different in that they have built for the Switch and only the Switch, so it should be optimized more, much like Age of Calamity was. But even that game buckled at times with the sheer number of enemies on screen. The Muso games aren't my thing. There was a period a couple of years ago where I had to review 3 of them in a row. All different themes, of course. There was a Dynasty Warriors, there was an Aslan game, and there was Samurai Warriors. So there was a Samurai Warriors and Dynasty Warriors. They're very similar, but they're story-wise and that a bit different. But I reviewed the 3 of them over a period of like 6 weeks. So I got burnt out on Muso games. Tokyo and Rambu Warriors, I think, is July for us. It actually comes out, or it just came out, or it's just coming out in Japan. It's out this month in Japan, at least. But yeah, it is interesting that we're getting so many Warriors games out of nowhere. Whether or not though this is going to be a system seller, who knows? I'll be honest, I don't even recall what the numbers were for Fire Emblem Warriors initially, because it was so long ago. So I'm just going to have a quick look for it, see if we actually have the numbers. I don't. There you go. I don't have numbers for it, which just means that it didn't sell particularly well. Fire Emblem's Three Houses, though, it sold, last reported number was 2.8 million, which is obviously very, very big for that series. So if this has any sort of support from that, this could obviously sell 1 million copies. Age of Calamity broke 3 million pretty quickly, is the best-selling title in the Warriors, sub-series that Omega Force ever managed to create. So that was a surprise. Again, not for me, but I know some people are going to be very, very excited for it. Something that this falls into that category of, I honestly never thought it would happen. Snow should be, forming in hell, mass hysteria, dogs and cats living together, that sort of thing. And that is obviously that MLB The Show 2022 is hitting Switch. A few years ago, they did announce that it was MLB The Show was going to be hitting the other consoles as well, instead of just PlayStation. And that was MLB that did it. It may have sold over 1 million tabs, but I don't have the numbers available because Nintendo themselves didn't report on it. So it's probably sold 1 million over a period of months rather than in like a single quarter. But that's fine. I'll see if I can dig up those numbers. So Major League Baseball, the group, the association, said to PlayStation, hey, you're renewing the contract for us. We love what you do, but we'd like to see this on more platforms for more people to get access to it. Obviously, the contract's worth a lot of money to Sony. So they said, sure, why not? And then last year we had The Show 21 hit Xbox, and it launched in Game Pass on that day. But this year, as was initially sort of told, we were going to get it on Switch at some point. MLB The Show 22 is hitting all the platforms. This actually popped up inside a Nintendo Direct. So it's not like we see, Minecraft update in a Switch showcase or a PlayStation showcase, because they were on those platforms before Microsoft bought them out. This is the fact that this is a PlayStation-owned series. It's been PlayStation for like 16 years, now showing up in a Nintendo Direct. If that doesn't make you think something's going on, I don't know what to tell you. Now, They did release 2 screenshots alongside the gameplay reveal. This is the part that's very, very confusing. This is... The series obviously started, we got it back on PlayStation 3. It did hit PSP, it did hit PlayStation Vita. So we have seen it on handheld-based platforms before. And I'll be honest, it doesn't look bad. There's some detail missing. Obviously, if you look here, everything looks a little weird. It's just not as smooth. But I'll pop the trailer on because in motion... let me skip over Tiny talking there. In motion, it doesn't look so bad. Obviously... watching this like on it through a stream, it's going to look a little weirder than normal, but it doesn't look horrible in motion. And while this is probably not going to be the first place most people are going to go to have the MLB the Show experience, if you're traveling a lot or you just don't have access to a big screen TV or something, this may be the way that you want to play the game. So the fact that it does look, somewhat decent is surprising. One thing that is cool though is it does support cross progression, so that if you do have the game on Xbox or PlayStation, you can play those at home. You need to have your both consoles, both games on both consoles linked to the MLB account profile that you create, and then you can share your progress. If you get halfway through a particular season, you can then upload that to the MLB servers, download it onto the Switch, and keep going from there. It is also cross-play supported, so you can be playing it on Switch, your mate can be playing it on Xbox, because again this year it is in Game Pass on Xbox. So if it doesn't look horrible in motion, I think too on the Switch screen, like if you're playing handheld, it would look a lot better. But again, this is the problem with debuting stuff inside of streams. Streams can be impacted by the number of viewers. They can buffer and things like that. So I'm hoping that it's just maybe the videos aren't that great, and obviously it is still a couple of months out from release, so it could be from an earlier build. As I was saying, it does support crossplay as well. So Switch owners can play against PlayStation owners, they can play against Xbox owners, everyone can play against everyone else, or you can just play against friends as well. Just to show off the difference, this is what it looks like on PlayStation 5. So Owatani, again, they're making good use of him as the the main character, if you will. He's the cover athlete for this year's release. See, for whatever reason, it's decided it wanted to do that at 360p, which makes me now wonder. Let me turn that down. Maybe this one wasn't doing it. Yeah, this is doing it at 360 as well, for some weird reason. There we go. That looks better than it did before. I don't know why it was doing it at 360p. That's really weird. But yeah, the PlayStation 5 version obviously does look incredible. But that's the lead platform, if you will, so it should look best on that particular one. I follow baseball a little bit, so I do know who Owatani is, and obviously he's an incredible pitcher and hitter. But a friend of mine, he reviews these games every year for me because he's baseball mad. So yeah, it's obviously going to do very well for Sony, and I think Switch owners will enjoy the fact that the game is there, because at the moment, outside of Japan, if you want to play a baseball game on Switch, the only series that's around is the RBI series. And that's more of an arcade type baseball experience, which there's nothing wrong with that. The baseball, is solid. But it's kind of like comparing, baseball from Wii Sports to the real thing. It's accurate to a degree, but it's still missing, the core of what the sport is. So yeah, so I think some Switch owners will be, really, really happy that the game is coming to it, and I do think it'll sell pretty well. I think PlayStation will be happy with the end up with the end results on this one, because especially in Japan, baseball is massive over there, and the show did do pretty well on the PS Vita and the PSP back in the day. So I think it'll do pretty well on Switch over there as well, especially with Owatani on the cover. He got his start playing baseball in Japan. Played for the national team for a while as well, before he was recruited to the MLB by the Angels. So yeah, I think in Japan it's going to do extremely well, but we'll have to wait and see how that all shakes out. The last game that they revealed in the Direct was that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is coming, and it's coming this September. Many folks expected to see a new Xenoblade game this year, but expectations were on a spin-off. So, since Nintendo got involved, we got Xenoblade Chronicles 1, then Xenoblade Chronicles X, then Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So many people were expecting maybe like an X2 sort of thing. But I think what caught them unaware is the fact that we had that spin-off when we had the definitive edition of Xenoblade Chronicles, which is this one here, release on Switch as well. So they ported the Wii version, the Wii game across, and then said, hey, we're updating some visuals, adding some new story elements, things like that. I'll be honest, I don't know much about the Xenoblade series because it's just not my cup of tea. This is my cup of tea here because I just what I drink. That is a very bad pun, and I do apologize for that one. Not too seriously as an apology, just like a token apology. But yeah, so I don't know much about the series because it's a JRPG and I tend not to play those. But we do know that this one ties into Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So sort of there's some narrative threads from those two games that will come into play in this third installment. There is obviously a trailer. We got some character art. So this is the protagonist. Thank you, Tabs. So we did get a name for the character. What it is off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you. But I honestly, some of these character designs, like I'm digging them. Like maybe not him. Like that's what Japan thinks is like an edgy character design. But I do like the look of these characters. I think they are pretty special. We obviously got a letter from Tetsuya Takahashi, who's the director of the series. He's the executive director of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I did put it in here. Nintendo have it on their site. Let me post the link here in the chat. So it is in there if you want to read the letter from Mr. Takahashi or Takahashi-san. That is worth a look. Interestingly, though, the game looks insanely good. So Xenoblade Chronicles 1 Definitive Edition looks interesting because it was a Wii game. They sort of rebuilt it for the Switch, but it still had a lot of the initial design constrictions that the Wii version had. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was good, but yeah, this one just seems to be very, very large for what what it is. I don't know. There's just something about it. Just does look pretty incredible. I don't know if it's going to be how smoothly it's going to run. I suspect it will have some issues running, in the grand scheme of things. But if it's locked at 30 frames, I think that should be good enough. I'm just looking through here. I don't think... so Nintendo just announced they kicked off a big sale called the February Fest, where they put like 1,000 games on sale for Switch. And Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is 33% off, so it's $59.95 at the moment. So yeah, so $60 down from $90. It's one of those rare games from Nintendo that isn't $80 here, it's $90. But you can actually pick it up with the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 expansion pass for $90, down from $135. So for the price of the main game, normally you can get all the DLC as well. But yeah, so how Xenoblade 3 runs in the long run, who knows? Again, it's not my sort of game, but I do know some people are very excited that game is coming, and it is coming this year. Let me just have some more of my tea. All right. Those are the bigger announcements from the Direct. Now we're going to speed through the other announcements. When I say speed through, we're not going to go into too much detail, but we'll go through them here. So Splatoon 3, we got to look at the updated Salmon Run, which is the PvE mode for the game. So you and 3 mates can team up and try and take down and collect all the eggs on the various maps. There are new bosses. There's a new sort of kaiju level threat. I had fun with Salmon Run. It's not my general mode of play for games of this sort of nature, but it was fun. Whether or not it ends up being interesting long term, I hope there's more to it this time, because there were some friends of mine that did manage to get through the Salmon Run content. They sort of got max level pretty quickly, so I'm hoping that there's more of a tail on this sort of stuff. Front Mission First is a tactical RPG that is getting completely remade. I don't want to talk smack about the developer, but last year Square Enix announced that they're going to be working with Forever Entertainment to sort of redo a bunch of classic Square Enix titles for modern platforms. Forever, unfortunately, have had a bit of the nicest way I can say it is they've been a bit inconsistent with the quality of things. So they did the Panzer Dragoon remake, I think maybe 18 months ago now. They also announced the House of the Dead remake, and that's still MIA. Everything sort of always looks right, but it just doesn't quite hit the right marks that it needs to. So how that runs, we'll have to wait and see. Assassin's Creed Ezio Collection, we knew that was coming. This was just a quick look at it again. It's the 3 games, all the DLC, all the single-player DLC, and the short movies. You get 1 game on the card. The rest are tied to the card for downloading from the eShop. SD Gundam Battle Alliance, it's a brand new Gundam title. The Bandai Namco have had a few of these released over the years, usually for PlayStation platforms. This is the first one. It's coming to all platforms, so Switch, PS5, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and PC via Steam and Windows. It's coming out later in the year. It's very chibi style in its visuals. There's a whole bunch of details. The trailer has everything in there. Chrono Cross. I just realized I spelled cross wrong up here. I'll fix that. Chrono Cross, the Radical Dreamers edition, is remastering the original Chrono Cross and the Radical Dreamers title from the Satellaview for Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Specifically, it is PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. They should be backwards compatible. That's not yet confirmed, however. What is interesting is the game is coming out first on Switch on July 8th. It will eventually come to the other platforms. But there's no set date for those yet. I do have in here the comparison. So this is what the game currently looks like. It looks fine, nothing wrong with it. And this is the redone visuals. It does look cool. Something of note, I did do a separate story for this one, is that the music can be changed back and forth between the old and the redone. But the visuals are a one and done thing. If you want the redone visuals, you get everything redone. If you want the old visuals, you get all the old visuals. You can't have the new character models on the old backgrounds, right? So it's all everything or nothing. Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series is remaking Klonoa 1 and Klonoa 2. So Klonoa Door to Phantomville and Klonoa 2 Lunatier's Veil. Both of those are coming to Switch as well as all the other platforms later in the year. The Klonoa series is also celebrating 25 years this year, so it's a bit of a love letter to fans of the series. which I'll be honest, I don't know many people that are fans of the series. Most people will have heard of it, but they haven't really played them. We did get some of the games on the Wii and Wii U. They were just sort of ports originally. These are actual full-blown remakes. Live Alive. I've seen people say it's Live Alive. It's Live Alive. I know they say Live Alive in the Direct. I think it's going to be one of those ones where it's Han and Han. Same thing, different slight pronunciations. This is a complete remake of the previously Japanese-only title from Square Enix. It is going to be featured in that HD 2D art style that Octopath Traveler has been using, and that Triangle Strategy will be using next month when it releases. It's weird. Like, I mean, I say Live Alive because it's sort of pronounced, it rolls better. Live Alive makes no sense. Essentially, that's exactly it. Some people say Sega, some people say Sega. So, same thing, slightly different pronunciations. I'll be honest, this particular one I don't think is going to do too well for Square, mostly because some people will say they know this series very well, even though it's never been released outside of Japan. How well it goes for them, we'll have to wait and see. But I am happy that this HD 2D art style is getting more and more use. So we've had Octopath Traveler. The mobile version of that is using the same thing. Obviously this one, Triangle Strategy next month, and the remake of Dragon Quest III is also using that art style. So I'm very happy to see that Square Enix are getting a lot of use out of it. This is what I get for writing these names out as I'm watching the Direct. Taiko no Tatsujin Rhythm Festival is coming to Switch. The Xbox platform just got a game on its own. It's also in Game Pass. The Taiko series is fun. It's not a rhythm game for me. I like most rhythm games. I just don't like the juxtapositioning of the traditional Japanese drum and modern music. It doesn't click in my mind. There's solid rhythm games. Some of the high difficulties require you to be damn near on point, 1000% to get all the details, all the notes and everything right. Interestingly, this will have a few, multiplayer modes, one where you can battle against friends to see how well you do, and one where you can join forces with friends to become a part of a 4-band group, a 4-drum group, and play songs as, collectively to make the best music you can. Triangle Strategy, again, they showed it off. Interestingly, there is a demo available that runs from Chapter 1 to Chapter 3, and reports are from people that are playing it now for review that they are very text heavy. They dump a lot of exposition on you in these early chapters. What's interesting though is if you do plan on picking up the game, you can transfer all your... Donkey Konga is much the same. Donkey Konga was essentially, it's the same game essentially, but it had the benefit of the drum felt a bit better than just pressing buttons on the Switch. The actual drum controller, there's nothing announced for it coming here. Let me just double check from Bandai Namco that is the case. No, nothing for it at this point, which, let's be honest, I wouldn't expect it to, but you can import them from Japan or from sites like PlayAsia. They do stock them as well. But yeah, Triangle Strategy, the demo's out now. Play through the first 3 chapters, and then you can actually transfer your progress into the full game if you continue on. We got a quick look at Cuphead, their DLC, which is called The Delicious Last Course. I do like it when companies actually use DLC as part of their naming convention. Not many do, but when some do and they do it right, like Delicious Last Course, it makes it's a nice little touch. Zombie Army 4. We've had all the zombie armies. We've had all the Sniper Elite so far. So Zombie Army 1, 2, and 3 came out as a pack. Sniper Elite 1, 2, 3, and 4 are also available on Switch. So Rebellion are supporting it pretty well. We also got Strange Brigade last year on Switch, which, pardon the pun here, is a strange one. It's definitely a team-focused one, and I don't recall there being any cross-play for that one. So if there wasn't a lot of people playing it, there's sort of no point in doing it. What's interesting about this one is it's coming out April 26th, so it's literally a couple of months away, and it's looking fine. It's looking, it's a zombie army game. If you're a fan of the series, this is just more of the same. I'll be honest, I've played maybe an hour of the series. It's one of those sort of team-based shooters that you really need to invest a lot of time into to learn all the mechanics and the maps and all that, which I just never have had time to do so. But I will have to give shout out to Rebellion. This is their 9th or 10th game on Switch at this point, because there was one very early on. It was based off a comic series. You're a blue alien guy with like an electric backpack on. So I think this is their 10th game on Switch. But yeah, so they've been stalwart supporters since the early days of the platform, and they're sort of just plodding along there, releasing their stuff. The only sort of series recently that they've done that they haven't brought across yet is Evil Genius, but that just came to the other consoles at the end of last year, so who knows, maybe we'll see that hit Switch sometime in 2022. We've got a quick look at Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, the Hinokami Chronicles. It's basically the Demon Slayer, season 1 sort of anime in game form. It's done by CyberConnect 2, the studio that have done all the Naruto games over the years for Bandai Namco. So that's why the game looks incredible, is because these guys have spent 15 years developing that art style, that engine to replicate the anime manga art style that everyone sort of knows from manga and anime. It features the same modes and story beats as the other releases from last year. What is interesting though is the Switch version will come with 6 unique characters, so there'll be a bit of extra content on the Switch version from the others. Finally, 2 games. One is Lego Brawls. Lego Brawls is a formerly Apple Arcade title. It is basically Smash Brothers for kids, but instead of the Iron Man Lego character fighting the Batman Lego character, it's just generic Lego figures that you can customize yourself, and then you go and battle across various Lego themed maps. So the dinosaur lands, the city lands, the samurai lands, all that sort of stuff. It's hitting all the platforms, so Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. And again, it is also available on Apple Arcade if you are so interested. I think it is also on Google Play Store, but I'm not an Android user, so I can't confirm that one. And then finally, we got to look at 2 Point Campus ever so briefly. It's coming May 17. Design and the layout of a school, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And then we are done. Whew. There we go. So that is everything from the Nintendo Direct. The only thing we didn't show off is that Earthbound and Earthbound Beginnings hit the Nintendo Switch Online apps for their respective platforms. Metroid Dread got an update to add an easier difficulty mode and a torturous difficulty mode. Where one single hit is game over. And then we also got a look at release of Getsuma Fuden Undying Moon, which is a new side-scroller from Konami, which, if you haven't seen it, it does look absolutely incredible. Let me bring that trailer up just before we sign off, because it does look insane. Like, it mixes traditional Japanese art with a
Peggy.
Let me sorry. Let me bring this one up here. Yeah, so this is Getsu Fumaden Undying Moon. It's about $37 on the eShop. Let me skip into the actual gameplay. I don't know, the game, it just looks incredible. It is also a mobile title, so it is on Apple and Android. But yeah, I don't know, this game, it just, the visual style just does something for me. We don't normally see games that sort of have this level of detail. The only thing I can really compare it to is like Okami or even Beautiful Joe, with like that cell shaded, traditional sort of Japanese comic look. This one is obviously leaning more heavily into the historical drawings throughout, Japan's history. But yeah, I don't know, it just looks pretty cool. The best way I can describe it is it reminds me of Hades, but like, if Hades was like done in the Japanese style and 2D. People always do that. They always say, oh, we see them, with demastered titles, like, Way Forward did a few years ago. They did the Mummy demastered. And there was another. We've seen it before with Game Boy games getting demastered versions of things. So, but yeah, this one dropped yesterday during the Direct as well. So if you're looking for something a little more challenging and unique, this is one that you should definitely look into. But that's us done for this week. As I said, we went half an hour longer than we normally do because there was just so much stuff from the Nintendo Direct. We will be back on Tuesday for the next episode of our Games Bond series, where we're continuing our playthrough of The World Is Not Enough on Nintendo 64. We got halfway through last week, so we should finish off the game this week. Then we'll be back next Friday with the next episode of the Maxi Geek Show. If you did watch live, thank you for watching live. If you did watch the replay, thank you for watching the replay. The show will also be up on YouTube as well if you prefer to watch it there. Otherwise, we'll see you next week for the next show. And until then, happy gaming.